Alright, chat. I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll be back. Okay, here we go. Bro, I don't even know why OJ Shadowball donates $3. Like, OJ Shadowball, you know my bit donos on this stream is like 50 cents. Like, I don't, you could save so much money by just doing 50-cent bit donos. Why you pay $3 to just get scammed? I don't use bits? Bro, it's cheaper. Alright, here we go. Oh, wait, webcam. Go. I feed you. No, you don't. My mouth does. Fire from hell. Okay, let's see this.
Bit this umanom.
July blank blank 1982. Okinomiya Police Station 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasugi. Prefecture Police Headquarters for the Eradication of Drug-Related Crime. Shishibone Branch Head blank blank. Regarding incident blank designated as undercover investigation. This message is to inform you that a section of the testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinomiya Police Station X, Hinamizawa Village housewife slaughter incident. During investigation of suspect blank blank who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs. There was testimony alluding to the crime in question, and it became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you. Duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that the suspect blank blank was the perpetrator in the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with the Okinomiya Police Station. The responsible party at Okinomiya Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as undercover investigation by executive order from the Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1st, they did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question. As a result, was negligent when combing the scene. Apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there is a postscript stating that suspect blank blank died while in confinement yesterday on XXX. So Satoshi died? So I think what happened is Satoshi took the bat, killed his aunt, and probably ripped his own throat out again as well?
はい、もしもし。救急ですか？消防。
消防です。
火事ですか？事故ですか？落ち着いて話してください。
多分火事だと思います。こちらは中部高速の柿内サービスエリアなんですけどね、裏の山からなんだかすっごい火と煙が上がってるのが見えるんですよ。あんなところ誰も立ち入らないから、なんで火がついてるのかよくわかんないですけど、とにかく連絡した方がいいと思って。山火事にならないとも限らないし。
わかりました。すぐに現場を確認しますので、そちら様のお名前とすぐに連絡のつく電話番号、それから火災現場の詳細な場所をお願いします。
消防司令部より通達。 G ブロック西側山斜面にて不審火の通報あり。街道から離れていることからカップルの焚き火か不法投棄のゴミに放火したかの可能性があります。現場は深い森林地帯。周辺に民家はないが延焼の可能性あり。直ちに現場を確認されたし。
消防署ですか？こちらは G ブロック第3消防分隊です。通報の現場にさっき到着。ドラム缶が一つ山中に放棄され炎上しているのを確認しました。火は鎮火しつつあり、延焼の可能性はなしで、ドラム缶の中に多分人じゃないかと思うんです。警察の人にも連絡した方がいいんじゃない
I
かと
don't
思い
think
ま
it's
して。
Takano.
間違いねえよ。これ人だよ。
I think it's Tomitake and I think Takano burnt him. Okay. That was chapter 2, but this
今年の
isn't
タ
chapter
タリっ
2.
てことっすかね。
そういうことになるんですかね。毎年いろんな殺し方を見せてくれますが、今年は特に際立っていますね。
自分で自分の喉をかき破るなんて。
あとは鑑識のじい様に任せましょう。きっと何かの怪しげな薬物を検出してくれるに違いありません。
お疲れ様です。お疲れ様です。
ああ、おいさん。小宮山さんたちが到着しました。
大石さん、お疲れ様です。今年は一等来てるのが出たらしいじゃないですか。
裏を書かれました。私はてっきり今夜死ぬのは北条鉄平だとばかり思ってたんですがね。
仏は何者です？
富武二郎。年に何回かひなみ沢に来てる趣味の写真家さんです。
I'm so confused. So it's not Tomitake. So Takano is in the oil barrel? But I thought Tomitake was in Takano's trunk. It was never confirmed. And no, it was basically confirmed, bro. Takano literally said you and I didn't see each other. She basically insinuated that, and Keiichi basically said she had all the murderous intent that he did as well, right? So like it was pretty much implied that it was Tomitake in her trunk. That's why she was being so defensive about that bike that Keiichi 100% knew was Tomitake's bike, right? Unless what happens is if you try to take Oyashiro-sama's curse into your own hands, aka kills people on Watanagashi, maybe you get punished or village people come out for you. So like Takano, by trying to take the curse into her own hands and killing Tomitake at the night of Watanagashi, got disposed of. That was just speculation. It was never implied that Tomitake was in her trunk. She only had his bike. Then why the fuck would she be threatening Keiichi like that? That she and him never saw each other that night. That he should basically forget that she was even there. Like, it implies she was doing something bad. Because he was onto her. Onto her doing what, Kocha? Yeah, possibly having someone dead in her trunk. Like, you're literally, like, connecting the dots, but then being an idiot at the same time.
ノーマークだったな。
どうなんでしょうね。北条宅にずっと張り付いてたのがバレて、ターゲットを変更したとか。
かなあ。恨めったな。
で、北条哲平の方は何も問題なし。
Oh?
ねえ、夕方頃に娘が祭りに出かけて、その少し後にバイクで出かけまして。先に娘が帰ってきて、あれ
Oh?
まだ帰ってないかな。どっかで飲んだくれてるのかな。
大石さんいらっしゃいますか。高杉課長からです。1号車の無線にお願いします。
Oh, fuck. Alright, here we go. At first, I thought it was a dream. I was staring at this strange sheet, not really understanding what it was. That was all. I didn't go after it, nor did I ridicule it. The fact was that the boring view was the ceiling of my own room, but I didn't realize that for a fairly long time. Yes, I thought I had been dreaming, but I had actually been staring at the ceiling the whole time. Lethargy induced by the voices of the cicadas. Even after I realized I was awake, I couldn't draw forth the energy to sit up. Everything I could see, everything I could hear, everything was like a television broadcast that had already ended. It was hot. So hot I could choke on the heat. My back was moist with night sweats and it felt gross. Unable to endure it any longer, I tossed in my futon and finally blood started coursing through my brain. I lazily recalled the long day I had yesterday. The reality, as I lay here listening to the voices of the cicadas, and yesterday so different from it. In order to kill Satoko's uncle, I had rehearsed, formulated a plan, and dug a hole. It was very hot and I was tired, wasn't I? And when evening came, I went to school and called him out on the phone. I panicked for a moment when he asked where the police station was, but it worked out. And then I awaited him and swooped down. I couldn't remember anymore what sort of emotions I had let control my body. In any case, it didn't go smoothly, but I did it. It was very hard to dig the hole for the body. That feel of the rain pelting down on me, I don't think I'll ever forget it. The rain, the mud, the sprays of blood. The sensation of floundering in a swamp. When I met Takano-san on the way home, that wasn't good, no matter how I interpreted it. It was the most misfortunate and uncalculated thing that had happened that night. Everything would have been perfect if only I hadn't encountered her. Ha. I was just riding my bike with my shovel in one hand through the downpour, utterly soaked. There was no way someone could surmise I was a murderer burying a body from just that information. Now that I was thinking calmly, napping under the morning sun, that's what I thought. Still, the more I think about Takano-san's eyes, it seemed like she understood. Takano-san, she knew that I'd killed someone, buried them, and that I'd been on my way home, exhausted. Takano-san wouldn't gain anything from selling me out to the police, but that didn't mean I could feel at ease. Don't worry, Keiichi, she's dead. I had crossed such a bridge to get my tranquil life back, and I'd finally achieved it as a result. But now, for the rest of my life, for all the tranquil days starting today, I'd have to live in fear of when they could suddenly end. I may have twisted my ankle, dulled from total exhaustion. The fact that I couldn't make the snap judgment I needed to, I regretted it more and more as time went on. You didn't have a choice, Keiichi Maribara. You didn't have any choice at the time. You were tired, you were a mess. Even if you had made the decision, you might not have been able to kill her. She might have just beaten you instead. In that sense, parting ways uneventfully could have been the safer option. No matter how sharp Takano-san's intuition was, she had no proof. Her suspecting me didn't amount to evidence by itself.
理屈じゃ分かってるさ。でも、だからって何の心配もないってわけじゃないだろう。
Just worry about it when the time comes. Now isn't the time to be worrying. It's time to be smiling, right? You accomplished so much just to gain a new life starting today, didn't you? Then you should be happy at this new morning. Bro, I bet you Satoko isn't happy. Like, maybe Satoko was actually just a scamming bitch the whole time, right? There's still that possibility, chat, because of that first false, like, boy who cried wolf situation, she could again have been pretending everything, right? And maybe she was using the uncle as a means to an end to get attention for herself, right? Remember the reason why she reported the first stepfather was because she wanted attention from her mother? She had bruises all over now. Yeah, but like, we're talking about a crazy girl, right? Potentially, she could have self-inflicted bruises to make herself look, look hurt. You see her uncle being a jackass? Okay, but a jackass doesn't make an abuser, right? Like, you could be a jackass, but that doesn't mean you're abusing kids, okay? She also had a panic attack. Yeah, but she also immediately switched, like the second the teacher came in. Like, that's my suspect part, where the fact that the second the teacher came in, she was just like, like she did that whole parasite lock-in moment. Like, she went for more like, full lock-in, bro. Like, she was like, that was the part where I was like, what? Like, I don't know, man. If remembering the past is too hard for you, then just consider everything up to yesterday as having never happened. You said so yourself. You'd bury it all like it never happened. Well, your wish came true. Everything before yesterday never happened. So be happy, Keiichi Marlborough. I stuck up my hands lazily. It felt a little silly for me to be doing the one doing it. I heaved a sigh from deep in my belly. That sigh got my lungs moving. Felt like I hadn't been breathing until just now. It wasn't enough to admonish myself over. All the dice that could be thrown already had been. And the numbers that turned up weren't bad at all. If I lost with those numbers, then I just have to give up, I guess. I grabbed the chest of my pajamas and flapped it back and forth. Cool air flowed over my sweating body. Okay, nothing before yesterday happened. Nothing. Nothing at all. I forget it all. Yesterday was all a dream. What time was it? About midday? Getting myself up and going to school this late seemed kind of absurd. But I needed to go. I felt like going to school would be the first step into my peaceful new life. I didn't care how late it was. I would go. I'd go to school right now and get back to the life I had retaken as soon as I could. My lazy body immediately became lighter at the thought. I rolled up out of the futon, bounced onto my knees, and then leapt right upright.
10.0
I stuck out my chest with pride at my gymnast-like pose and took a deep breath of fresh air. The brisk morning air had been gone for a while, replaced by the crisp air of summer. Downstairs, I got a stern talking to by my mother. Where were you last night? When did you go? When did you get back? You need to tell me when you won't be home for dinner, things like that. But considering the importance of what I had accomplished yesterday, a little scolding was no problem. In fact, it even felt like the sort of thing that would happen in such a peaceful life. I listened with an irresponsible smile and stepped out into the sun high overhead. It was around the time lunch break would be ending. Everyone would probably be worrying about me. I didn't go to the festival and now I wasn't at school. Well, maybe they weren't too worried about it, since they would have gotten a small piece of news, but a happy one from Satoko today. Yes, the small piece of news that her uncle hadn't come home last night. Satoko would probably live her days in nervous tension for a while, thinking he might still come home, but eventually those days would end. Bro, like I'm saying, I think all of this is just, nah, Satoko's... And finally, Satoko too would realize her uncle was never coming back. And then Rika-chan would quietly invite her. She would say, you can live with me. Because, like, everything Keiichi's saying sounds like exactly what you would want to happen. What you think would happen. But then it's not going to happen. And everything would be back to normal. Our lives would go back to how they were before that man appeared. Satoko would start wearing that extraordinary smile, complete with those protruding canines, and fool everyone with those traps she was so proud of. Probably be her first target out of everyone, but I wouldn't be mad. In fact, I might actually shed tears of joy at the return of something normal. Satoko, she'd gradually grow back into that meddlesome personality of hers. I mean, my lack of useful life skills was already completely exposed. I wondered if I'd ever be a match for Satoko. But that would be such a pleasant thing to see too. And with such warm, fuzzy predictions, I didn't feel bad for going to school so late. In fact, I wanted to run there now to get there as soon as I could. Instead, I decided to savor the peacefulness of just going to school like normal without running. The world I'd obtained for myself that gave me joy just by walking like this. Yes, the world beginning on this very day was something I had won. Without that monumental feat yesterday, I would never been able to come to school so cheerfully today. The school gate came into sight. Just then, I heard the principal ringing the bell to mark the end of lunch break. It was a clear, refreshing sound. I stepped despite myself and let myself take it in. Tap. I'd stopped suddenly, so there was an extra footstep. With the noise, the blessedness I was feeling throughout my whole body withdrew into any pore it could find. What if that's the curse, right? It was no, I don't think it's Oishi. I think that's the curse. He's starting to feel it catching up to him. And as if to replace it, I felt like hundreds of hairy caterpillars were climbing up my feet. Turned back, but of course nobody was there. A single footstep could have easily been my imagination. No, I 100% think it's the curse. I think it's the same way Satoshi died, right? A couple days later, right? You kill someone, and then a couple days later, the curse catches up to you and you die. But the footstep felt so ominous. That extra footstep I had heard after seeing Takano-san off last night, with everything that happened on that insane night, I didn't mind something like that happening once. It had been one hell of a night after all. In fact, having just one hallucination was pretty fortunate. But those footsteps should have ended with yesterday, so if I heard them again today, there was really only one thing it could have meant. Last night still wasn't over. It was still going, still. That insane night forever. The step I heard, just that one extra footstep, was quietly ridiculing the nonsensical notion that the world starting today was completely different from the one that ended yesterday. My classmates playing the schoolyard all vanished inside like the tide going out. When I approached the school, it felt like that warm, fuzzy scene had ended and it didn't feel good. At the entrance, I took a quick look into everyone's shoebox. Satoko Hojo. She was here. Mion was here too. And Rena, of course. Even Rika-chan was here. Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun were here. In fact, I didn't see any missing classmates. If there were shoes missing, they would have to be my own. I took my shoes off and stuck them in, then took out some slippers. There wasn't a single pair left in the shoebox anymore. With that, they returned to their rightful state. But as I stepped up onto the wooden floor, I noticed there was just one pair of slippers left. Huh? Whose?
Hojo Satoshi.
Satoshi, you have never been to school since disappearing last year. Until now, we had committed the exact same act of violence, but I guess in the very end it went differently. You couldn't make it to school, but here I am. I didn't repeat the same mistake you made. I wasn't about to let myself feel superior about that. In fact, I felt an odd sense of familiarity with him, a misfortunate bond, with someone I'd never met due to following the same fate. I headed down the hallway towards the usual classroom. It felt like it had been a whole year since coming here. Hey, did you forget Keiichi Marabara? Satoshi Hojo didn't really disappear on the night of Watanagashi, did he? Satoshi Hojo disappeared a few days later, on Satoko's birthday if I was right. I didn't know what day it was, but I couldn't say for sure I'd avoided Satoshi's failure unless I remained here past that day. I was still living in that night of insanity. The teacher still hadn't come to the classroom. The other door clattered open, the one the teacher wouldn't use, so everyone turned at once to see who had arrived. Everyone looked pretty vacant. Suppose I'll greet them.
諸君出迎えご苦労であるぞよ
Silence. When I started to think I'd fallen flat, someone finally started laughing for me.
おはよう、ケイちゃん。今朝も飛ばしてるね。
I think Mion easily knows what happened.
飛ばしてるね。ケイチ君、まだお祭り気分が抜けてないのかもしれない。はう。
Hearing Mion and Rena's cheerful voices made me realize how dumb those dark feelings I've been having at the entrance really were.
おいおいお祭り気分って
Okay,
そも
Chi.
そも俺
He thinks everything's gonna be alright. At the festival at all, remember? Before I could say that, Rika-chan smiled at me.
ケイチはちゃんと僕の演舞見ててくれましたですか？
Nope. I just realized. Did we watch Rika's dance a single time? Did we in chapter 1? Maybe? No, we haven't, right? No, we never. Maybe watching Rika's dance is what saves us. But every time we refuse to watch Rika's dance, we die.
ちゃんと見てたよ。あんなにいっぱい拍手してくれてたのに、リカちゃん気づかなかったのかな。
ケイちゃんにシオンのやつがちょっかい出してきたのを無視してね。はははは。シオン、ざまあなかった。
What's happening?
いい気分。
Mion starts laughing at the memory as she slaps me a few times on the back.
それで、あの射的屋の対決って結局どうなったんですか？
Tomita-kun was facing me and talking. There's nobody behind me. These are all like instances of like what happened in the previous chapter. What's happening?
Ah, あれは結局富田家がビリだったのですよ。
What?
みんなで楽しく罰ゲームをしましたです。
Oh, okay. All right. We're talking about the punishing. Okay. All right.
リカちゃんも実質ビリみたいなもんだったじゃない。あそこで起死回生の大技でガムをゲットとは、さすがは我が部の部員。見事だったよ。
Crying at a time like that is a feat only Furude would be allowed to do, said Okamura-kun, breathing heavily from his nose. In my direction. Everyone laughed. If anyone but Rika-chan had done it, it would have been against the rules. Rika-chan gave one of her nipa smiles as she listened to it. In my direction. Rena too turned to me, no, turned towards me. And then with a somewhat embarrassed smile, she whispered to me so only I could
で
hear.
も本当にありがとね、ケイチくん。
もう何がだよ。
The doll.
あのでっかいぬいぐるみ。
So what is happening? I don't understand. These are all things that happened in previous chapters, but we didn't do them in this run. I'm so confused. Chapter 1? No, this is not Chapter 1's events. These are Chapter 2's events.
すっごく嬉しかった。大事に枕元に置いてるんだよ。
Oh no, the doll was Chapter 2. Yeah, no, you're right.
ちゃんと寝る前にお休みのキスしちゃった。
No. Chat. No. The doll she's talking about is the doll from the prize, from the shooting game, which is from Chapter 1. No, that one's Chapter 1. Yeah, she's talking about that one. Okay, so like, we're getting Chapter 1 melded into Chapter 3 right now. What? Yeah, she's not talking about the doll that we gave that we should have given to Mion. That wasn't giant. It wasn't a stuffed animal either. It was like one of those like girl dolls. The class laughed at that, cheering and jeering. This whole time. The conversation had been a little off. I wasn't quite getting it.
ぬいぐるみがどうしたって？
どうしたって、ほら昨日のお祭りでみんなで頑張って落としたよ。
I don't get it. Maybe these are multiple realities, and when you get cursed by Orishiro-sama, I don't know. I'm just so confused. No, there's no way they're all covering for him, chat. There's no way.
でっかいぬいぐるみ。
Rena seemed taken aback, but when she answered, she did it with a smile.
なかなか倒せないから額を狙ったり素早く何発も撃ったりしていろいろと試したんだよね。それで圭一くん鉄砲を何丁もあらかじめ用意して素早く撃ってみせてくれたんだよね。かっこよかった。
Wait, who was this?
あの後の飲み会でさ、町内会の会長連中にもケイちゃんの評判すごく良かったんだよ。ケイちゃんの売り工場に惚れたって騒いでたのは子供会の君吉徳蔵会長だったかな。次の祭りではぜひケイちゃんに何店舗か任せたいって言ってた。
徳蔵はお祭りの実行委員会の模擬店部長さんなのです。
Maibara-san is great at making things sound good, isn't he? Yup, whenever he talks about something, it seemed a lot better than it actually is. Ahahaha, you can't say that. Ahahaha.
圭一くんって売り子さんの才能があるんだね。きっとバナナの叩き売りとかやったら上手だと思うよ。
さっきから何の話だよ。だいたい俺
They didn't go to the festival in the first place. I swallowed those words. I didn't know exactly why, but in Hinamizawa, this is what had happened. Yesterday during the Watanagashi festival, Keiichi Maibara had appeared, and he had romped about with all the usual members of his club. He made a big scene at a few stalls, snatched a few sticks of takoyaki and okonomiya in his glee, rating each of them as delicious or terrible to get everyone excited. Yeah, now if you think about it, chat, all the chapters are melding. Right? Takano being in a oil drum didn't happen until chapter 2. We only knew Takano having disappeared in chapter 1. Not at all, what do you mean? Tomitake having his throat ripped out was chapter 1. Takano being in an oil drum was chapter 2, right? All this stuff with the festival was chapter 1. And they'd seen a giant stuffed animal at the target practice game, and everyone went after it. And then I got a whole bunch of cork guns, firing them in rapid succession, throwing each one away after using it. And admirably, I shot down the biggest stuffed animal there. And then I gave the stuffed animal the proof of my victory to Rena as a gift. Our fun came to a close as we had to go see Rika-chan's offertory dance. There was a ton of people squeezed in there and we all got separated, but we each managed to get into good position to cheer Rika-chan on from. Then in the middle, when Shion came up and asked me to go hang out with her instead of watching the dedication dance, I refused. This is where we would have gone into chapter 2 and gone into the storehouse, but instead we refused. Okay. Where's Satoko this whole time, too? Yeah. Who was that? Well, everyone's been saying it, haven't they? Keiichi Maibara. I had an urge to yell in anger at my classmates for having so much fun talking about the festival yesterday with Keiichi Maibara. What the hell are you guys even talking about? Far stronger than that feeling, though, was the sheer uncanny nature of this reality I couldn't understand. A Keiichi Maibara who wasn't me was in Hinamizawa yesterday, as I threw away my humanity, turned into a demon, and was busy beating Satoko's uncle to death. Maybe this is the same thing like the Mion? Because remember, chat, remember Mion? Her body was found at the bottom of the well, and Shion was in their apartment losing her mind, but we still saw a quote-unquote Mion come to our house and kill us. So maybe the human Mion is, maybe in Hinamizawa, people when they become possessed by demons become like an ethereal entity that can like detach from like the corporeal realm and just like I don't know what the fuck. I'm so confused. Yeah, and the Mion that killed us was actually just like some demon, right? Not actually herself. And then she also appeared in the hospital at the end, right? Where we fucking lose it and just like go crazy. I was having a great time at the festival last night. What the hell? I had to suffer through so much, desperately holding back tears, getting so worn out in that downpour, digging holes, chasing, beating, killing, dragging, and burying. Who was this Keiichi Marabara who had ignored me so and spent such a fun, carefree time at the festival? Damn it. Who the hell stood in for me as I put my life on the line, working so hard to achieve this treasure-like everyday life? If there was another Keiichi Marabara besides me, then what was I? On the night of Watanagashi, where one died and one disappeared in accordance to Oishiro-sama's curse, there was only a demon who had killed someone. Dumbfounded as I succumbed to a horrifying possibility, I looked around at my classmates to make sure there was nobody extra I didn't recognize among them, to make sure I wasn't among them. Among us? It was a horrifying thought that the real Keiichi Marabara hadn't overslept and had come to school on time, and that I, who was no longer Keiichi Marabara, had just waltzed in here. But no matter how much I checked, the only people here were ones I knew. The man I met every time I looked in the bathroom mirror was not here.
はい午後の授業を始めますよ。皆さん席に戻ってください。委員長号令。
Why is the teacher not noticing that we are late? Okay, never mind, she did. Upon finding me, who was so stupidly late, she gave me a stern talking to, but I wasn't listening to it. Okay, never mind. Wasn't our old life supposed to start today? Something wasn't right. It was just strange. I was supposed to go back to my old fun life after yesterday. I'd set foot in an incomparably mysterious world that was completely different from both my old life and my recent one. Yes, this was without a doubt a different world than the one I've been living in until now. There was no way such an absurd thing could be possible. But unless it was true, I couldn't explain anything that just happened. In this classroom, I was surrounded by so many faces I knew, and yet I felt isolated. The cicadas sounded so different than they had before now, but they seemed somehow false. The air was parched and dry, too, making me think, was the air in Hinamizawa always this uncomfortable?
Oi, Rena.
何かな？授業中なんだよ。
昨日の祭りだけどさ、俺いつ頃みんなと合流したっけ？
To be honest, I was pretty excited afterwards and I gobbled down some cans of beer. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, but I don't quite remember some things. For random babbling, it wasn't a bad excuse.
ケイチ君、最初は来れないって言ってたんだよね。みーちゃんの家にそう電話したんでしょ？
That matched. I called Mion and told her to take Satoko in my place since I wouldn't be able to meet up with them due to things I had to do.
さとこちゃんを誘ってあげようっていうのはみんなでお祭りの準備をしてた時に決めたんだよ。少しでもおじさんの姿の見えないところに連れ出してあげようと思って。
That was the same too. Mion said that when I called her, that everyone had already decided to invite her.
それでみんなでレナとみーちゃんとリカちゃんでさとこちゃんの家に行ってさとこちゃんを連れ出して、さとこちゃんのおじさんすっごく意地悪そうな人だった。
That part didn't matter. What I was trying to ask
俺
was...
はいつ合流したんだ？
そんなことも忘れちゃってるの？ケイチ君、だから祭りの前の日はよく寝た方がいいよって言ったのに。
だから俺はいつ合流したんだよ。
Oh, Keiichi, fucking being mean. My sudden threatening demand, Ren was at a loss for words. Oops, I shouldn't have rushed that. I told her I was sorry.
境内でだよ。
Jackass.
Tyranx, take over to 13.
ひょっこりとリカちゃんと話してたじゃない。
うん、巫女さん姿のリカちゃんと楽しそうに話してた。それでレナも加わって「はうんお持ち帰り」って。
リカちゃんと話してたのか？
ケイちゃん、用事か何かがあったんじゃないって私が聞いたらさ、ケイちゃん、胸を叩きながら自分で言ったじゃないのよ。用事なんかより祭りで大暴れする方が大切だぜって。
I didn't say that. I never said anything like that. I never even went to the shrine grounds yesterday to begin with. I never had the time to stop by a place like that. I went to dig the hole as soon as I woke up. I had a pretty hard time doing it. After that, I snuck into the school and made a call, called him out and lay in wait, and then it started raining really hard. With that kind of downpour, the festival should have come to a halt. In other words, it ended then. From the time the festival started to when it ended, it would have been impossible for me to have swung by the shrine ground. I was already there when Mion and the others dragged Satoko out and brought her to the shrine, and I was talking to Rika-chan. Then where would Rika-chan say we met? He should ask, did it even rain for the others? Because I'm gonna be honest, if it was such an insane torrential downpour last night for that long, how would there have been a oil barrel burning in the forest and people would have been worried about a forest fire? Because the forest would have been so wet that nobody should have even been worried about a forest fire because it would have been so wet, right? Like, He also said the weather was parched and dry. True. Which wouldn't be possible if there was just insane long hours of rain the previous night. Teacher went out to wash her hands, so I ran over to Rika-chan's desk and asked her directly.
ケイイチとですか？
ああ、リカちゃんはミオンたちが来る前から俺と話してたんだろ？いつ俺に会ったんだ？いつどこでだよ？
ケイイチが何を聞きたいのか
俺昨日寝不足で半分頭がぼーっとなっててさ、何も覚えてないんだよ。
Looked like Rika-chan bought into my babbling.
ケイイチと会ったのは集会所から村長さんたちと出てきた時なのです。ケイイチは西宮殿の扉の前にいましたのですよ。
え、何？西宮殿？
I never heard a building called that before. Or maybe I have, but at the very least I wouldn't know where on the shrine grounds it was.
村長さんがそこは神聖な場所だからみだりに近寄ってはならにゅうと怒りましたですよ。ケイイチ、それも忘れてしまいましたですか？
I was too scared to ask any more. What is happening? The more I asked, the more it became clear without any doubt that Keiichi Marubara was present at the Furude Shrine Grounds during the Watanagashi festival. The clearer that became, the more doubts, no fears I had. Who on earth was I yesterday? Whoever that was, he had a good time in my place and managed to go the entire day without letting them notice I wasn't there. Alright, when did that person leave everyone? This morning, my mother got mad at me for having stayed out so late last night, which meant at the very least that Keiichi Marubara hadn't come home while my mother was still awake. The festival would have been closed because of the downpour. If I recall right, when I went back to the house's storage room to get another shovel, I think the clock said 7. Since it was already raining hard by then, the festival would have had to close down before 7. If I returned that early, I would have definitely run to my parents. But at the very least, they would have asked me when I got back last night. Yeah, nah, I think Keiichi, when he was doing that whole attack, was in like a different dimension, basically. So the Keiichi Marubara from yesterday, that meant he never went home. That meant the downpour happened, the festival was broken up, everyone left. But he didn't go back to the house. That means... When I arrived at the natural conclusion, a wicked chill suddenly froze my spine and climbed up to my brain. That meant Keiichi Marubara was the same as Satoshi. One day, he never went home. On the night of Watanagashi, he never went home. The downpour interrupted the festival, and on the way home, he suddenly disappeared. And I, who was dealing with the corpse, went home without a problem. I was so tired I wasn't even hungry, so I went up to my room without a sound and crawled into my futon. So we've essentially replaced... Who was I? That much was obvious. Keiichi Maebara was me. There may have been another one, but that doesn't negate the fact that I was Keiichi Maebara. Then the other Keiichi Maebara was what? The voices of the cicadas steadily filled the classroom were beginning to bother me. Suddenly I laid my eyes on Satoko. What if the uncle we killed yesterday was an uncle of a different dimension? Or a different parallel reality, and in the reality that we came home to, the uncle's still alive? No, chat, because think about it. I think Keiichi is in a different different reality, different timeline. Why would Satoko still be depressed? What had last night been like for Satoko? Did she have fun with everyone and feel a little happier, if even for a moment? And when she was home, the end of a dream, she'd probably gone to sleep afraid of when her uncle would return. And then this morning, her uncle hadn't come home. And then she went to school. Right now, she must have been still trapped by the rotten idea from which she couldn't be saved, that her uncle would need her when she got back. But you can rest easy, Satoko. Your uncle won't ever be coming back. Couldn't tell her it was because I killed him. When Satoko realized on her own that her uncle would never return, then that would truly be the end of her long, insane night. That's right, I didn't do anything wrong. I did the best possible thing I could have as Satoko's Nini. Not an atom in my body regretted it. And look, calm down and think, Keiichi Maebara. From a certain point of view, isn't it convenient there was another Keiichi Maebara? I buried the corpse perfectly, a beginning wouldn't happen. But if worst came to worst and it got out and the investigation got to me, I now had a strong alibi, able to profess the fact that I'd been at the Watanagashi festival, but accepting something so creepy and using it as an alibi. Still, if I proved I hadn't gone to the festival yesterday, it would do no good and a whole lot of harm. That was what left the really actually bad aftertaste. You'll forget about it, Keiichi Maebara. Everything that happened before you today. So just forget about what the Keiichi Maebara who was there yesterday too. Instead, let's watch gently over Satoko for the day her smile returns, and the day that would mark the end of that insane all too long night.
それでは今日はこれで終わりです。皆さん、寄り道をしないで。委員長、号令。起立。敬礼。
Goodbye. I thought about many things and saw my thoughts dispersed by many other things. I didn't know whether or not that time had been spent worrying or daydreaming, but either way, came to an end along with the class. Cheerfully, our classmates got their things and ran for the hallway. Mio and Rena and Rika-chan were packing up as well. What about Satoko? This whole day she'd been seemed deflated. Well, her uncle may not have returned last night, but she wouldn't have known he'd never return. How much I wanted to express that fact to her. Satoko packed up her pencil box and math workbook messily, and after a dark glance at the clock, heaved a sigh, then went to leave the classroom. Then suddenly, somebody placed a hand on her shoulder and stopped her.
何ですの？私、ちゃんと水やり当番もやりましたし、プリントだってちゃんと。
Her words, possessed by a persecution complex, hurt. I spoke loudly so everyone could
なあ
hear.
みんな、さ、今日は久しぶりにやらないか？部活。
Satoko always had to tend to her uncle, so club has been on hiatus. In our minds, our club was proof of a calm, peaceful life. But by enjoying being together, I wanted to make Satoko realize her days of darkness were over.
レナは、いいよ。
そりゃ、まあ、私は構わないけど、Satokoがいいならね。
In her condition, that was important. With everything up to her, Satoko gave a worried look.
なあ、Satoko、久々にどうだよ。 パーッとさ。
そのお気持ちは嬉しいでございますけど。
My uncle might already be home. Thus spoke her darkened eyes, her mouth unmoving.
サトコもさ、連日息が詰まるような生活をずーっと続けててさ、もうそんなのは心にも体にも悪いだけだぜ。やっぱりたまにはパーッと弾けなきゃな。
放っておいてくださいまし。私だってそりゃ部活がまたやれたらと思っていますわよ。
With one word, but, she looked down.
みんなで遊んだ方が楽しいのはサトコだってよく知ってるだろ。
Keiichi, you're being such a dumbass. Like, she doesn't know that the uncle's dead, or could be dead. Like,
俺たちは仲間だぜ。みんなで一緒に過ごすようにできてるんだよ。サトコだって昨日みんなでお祭りで騒いで楽しかったろ。
Rena nearly said something, but she was too late.
ケイチさん、何を言ってますの？
My arm on her shoulder seemed to weigh her down, and she threw it off.
私がお祭りで楽しく、いつ遊んだって言うんですの？楽しく遊んだのはケイチさんだけじゃありませんの。
I looked over to Mion for help, but now everyone was looking down. My instincts told me that Satoko hadn't gone to the festival. But Rena said it herself, that she went with Mion to Satoko's house to invite her.
さとこちゃん、途中で帰っちゃったの。神社には行かなかった。
どうして？
I realized the absurdity of what I just said with Satoko in front of me.
おじが家で待ってるのに一人だけ遊んでると悪いって言って、神社の直前で。
This doesn't make sense, though. The uncle came out because we said Satoko did something, which means Satoko couldn't be at the house when we called the uncle out. So where the fuck was this? What?
私たちも引き止めたんだよ。今日はおじさん公認だからちゃんと遊んでも怒られないんだよって。
Yeah, I mean, this could be another timeline. And the timeline had split right at the moment it started raining. Or no. It would have to have been before the rain. Where would it have split? At some point, tears had begun welling up in Satoko's eyes. Satoko was so afraid of her uncle that she couldn't even allow herself time with her friends and went home. No, she was even afraid of letting herself have a good time with her
ケイチ
friends.
さんはいいですわね。みんなで楽しくお祭り一夜を過ごせて。聞けば大層盛り上がって大活躍だったそうじゃないですの。お羨ましいことですわ。
Smiling to herself, her tears began to fall.
私には養わなければならない叔父がいますの。ケイチさんみたいにご両親にのんびり養ってもらってる人とは。
You know what, Satoko? Maybe I was doubting you for no
わけ
reason. Alright.
サトコ。
楽しくお祭りが過ごせてよかったですわね。私の分まで楽しく過ごせて本当におよろしかったですこと。私だって部活がしたいですわ。みんなで楽しく大騒ぎして楽しくて楽しくて。でも今の私、そんなの
Unable to withstand such violent emotion, a few teardrops slid down her cheek. But even though she was having such a terrible time, not once did she ever say that it was hard for her. It was a sad, obstinate bravery. But the days when Satoko had to feel like that were over. Satoko didn't need to endure it, to bear it anymore. She could forget all about it now and smile. I was so frustrated at not being able to tell her that directly. Instead, I said something that I'm not sure I should have said before I thought twice about
帰
it.
ってこないんだろ、あいつは。
The words were deeply meaningful to me, but I didn't know if Satoko understood them.
帰ってこないって誰がですの？
ゆうべは帰らなかったんだろ。
Here he goes.
お前のお家は。
何を言ってますの、ケイチさんは。
Satoko shouted with all her might.
あいつがいついなくなったって言うんですの？
Oh shit. We in that different timeline, boys. What? So what? What is happening? Why did we switch places with another Keiichi? I'm so confused. And nobody knows, Leorad. You've been typing that like for like 10 minutes, bro. Nobody knows.
いつ
落ち着けよ。だって昨日あいつは帰ってこなかったろ。
圭一さんが何を言ってるのか全然わかりませんでしたよ。
サトコこそ何を言ってんだよ。だってあの男は。
I killed him. Killed him yesterday. Killed him for sure. And I buried him. Buried him whole. He could never have returned to his house.
昨日だって私にいっぱい意地悪して怒鳴ってわめいて当たり散らして作ったご飯を投げられた。お味噌汁もひっくり返された。
What the fuck? Now we gotta kill this uncle again. Kill him twice.
暑かった汚かった。そしてお掃除も私がした。私が
Oh, Keiichi, you stupid fucker. What? Our stories weren't matching
あ
up.
いついる。
今朝だって朝ごはんの時は起こせって言われたから起こしたのに起こさなかったらまた怒るのに起こしても怒られた。
サトコ。
Rika-chan went over to Satoko and said a few words of consolation. But Satoko angrily refused those words and thrust Rika-chan away. Whoa!
いいに
Maybe Satoko's cursed, bro. Maybe Mion was right. Like, if you try to do anything to help Satoko, like, you get sent into a dimensional rift. Because think about it. Satoshi did the same thing. He tried to help Satoko by killing the aunt. And then he got sent to a dimensional rift and then disappeared. But then another, another Satoshi replaced him and then died anyways. But the aunt did die, yes. That's true. But like, so what I'm saying is this, chat, right? I think what you guys aren't understanding is, what I'm saying is this, okay? So, Satoshi had timeline A, right? Where he killed aunt. Aunt dead. Okay? But the second he killed the aunt, Satoshi got sent to timeline B, right? And the Satoshi that was in timeline B went to timeline A. And in this timeline, obviously Satoko still witnesses the death of the aunt. But the Satoshi that committed the death is in timeline B, where's the aunt still alive. Right? So like what I'm saying is, it's the same thing that happened to Keiichi. Keiichi killed is in timeline A, right? Uncle dead. Right? But then the second he killed the uncle, he got shifted to timeline B, in which the uncle is not dead. And inside timeline A, he switched with the other Keiichi, who now is in timeline A, being like, what the fuck? I killed an uncle? And now is gonna go to fucking jail or something. And now timeline B, Keiichi's like, what the fuck's happening? I killed the uncle. And then it's just like, you know? Satoshi is still missing. True. True, you're right. But he's not. Because remember the tip we just read before we played this. The tip literally said the blank blank that's actually suspected to have killed the aunt was found dead inside their cell. Right? The actual going story that everybody knows, the person that killed the aunt was a perpetrator, the drug addict, right? And I don't think we've ever heard that the drug addict died in prison. We just know that the drug addict is in prison, right? So I think Satoshi never went missing. I think Satoshi went to... It's implying that the drug addict died, bro? Wait, really? I'm so confused then. What the fuck's happening? But then if Satoshi disappeared, then he would have had to been replaced with another Satoshi, no? Oh no, don't tell me. When Satoshi disappeared, he got replaced with a drug addict. He lost the... Ooh, unlucky. Maybe he made the bad swap. Crying, Satoko slowly walked out into the hallway. After a moment, Rika-chan went after her. I couldn't stop thinking about the words Satoko had spoken while crying. I buried her uncle last night, but she said this morning. That was impossible. I buried him last night, so she couldn't have seen her uncle this morning. What was Satoko? At that point, I heard Mion's cold voice.
ねえ、ケイちゃん。サトコのおじさんが帰ってこないって。何？
Gulp. I said too much. I let my emotions get the better of me.
レナも聞いたよ。サトコちゃんのおじさんが帰ってこないって言った。
どうして？なんで帰ってこないの？
おかしいよね。だって今朝もちゃんとサトコちゃんのおじさんはいるんだよ。なのになんで帰ってこないなんて言うのかな。
This can't be chapter 1 timeline, chat. It can't be. Because in chapter 1 timeline, we didn't know about the abusive uncle. That didn't exist. But maybe it did exist the whole time. We just didn't know. But no, that it can't be chapter 1 still. Because chapter 1, Satoko was at the festival. This isn't chapter 1. It can't be chapter 1. Yeah. This is chapter 2 timeline if we didn't go into the storehouse. I think you're right, yes. True. That's why Tomitake and Takano are also both dead.
ケイちゃん、言ってることがさっきから変。
Suddenly Mion and Rena started to speak in strange and creepy voices. What were they doing? What were they saying?
ケイちゃんは、サトコのおじさんがいると、何か都合が悪いことでもあるわけ？
お前らこそ何を言ってるんだ。サトコのおじなんかいない方がいいに決まってるだろうが。
うん。それはもちろんいない方がいいよね。よね。
I'm so confused. Wait, what? Something wasn't right. Next thing I knew, Mion and Rena were smiling thinly and their eyes were dark and muddy in a way that I've never seen before. And as our eyes met, that mud even seemed to fill the air.
サトコのおじは確かに嫌なやつだよね。私もいなくなった方がいいやつだと思うよ。でもさ、いるわけだし、仕方ないじゃない。
Nothing we can do. Something's wrong. Something's clearly wrong here. What the hell was happening? After a moment, a chilly liquid-like feeling as though my blood had been mixed with sherbet, sherbet? Sherbet? Bro, is it sorbet? Sherbet? What the fuck? How do I say it? Crawled up my spine. Bro said sorbet. Both work? Okay.
仕方ないって。そりゃ仕方ないけど、でもそれじゃ佐藤が。
仕方がなければどうするのかな。
Rena was trying to prompt me to say more. There really was no choice, so I killed him. I killed him to protect
そ
Satoko.
れは
放っておきなよ。そのうち解決しちゃうと思うしさ。
さとこちゃんがおじさんがいるって言ってるんだからいる。ちゃんと昨日もいたし、今朝もいる。
What does she mean by things will resolve themselves soon enough? Leave him alone. What?
そうならそうでいいんじゃないかな。かな。
Mion and Rena were speaking unbelievably dismissively. How could they be talking like that? Mion and Rena, they were my friends and were seriously worried about Satoko's abuse, weren't they? They would never blurt out something like this. And I definitely killed Satoko's uncle. No matter what Satoko or anyone else says, I wouldn't acknowledge it because him being alive was impossible. There's no way he was alive. It was impossible. And yet, since Satoko herself said he was here, then he was alive. I didn't know why or how, but suddenly Mion and Rena were at my side, standing there silently.
帰ろうよ、ケイちゃん。
Nah, I kind of don't want to go home anymore.
帰ったらね、今日は久しぶりにレナ、宝探しに行くつもりなんだ。
Nope, you're definitely gonna kill me there.
みーちゃんも来るんだよ。
Okay, nope, no, we're definitely dying. Okay.
ケイちゃんも一緒に行こ
No?
う。もちろん拒否権はないからね。
Okay, we're dead. But why? Why? But I don't understand why they're doing this to us. But why would they do this? If words could freeze blood, then there was no doubt that they would have frozen me solid. I could hear it, a strange sound like a layer of thin ice spreading, emanating from every joint in my body. And with them closely at my sides, we left the school as if they were police officers taking me away. They talked about silly things the entire way home like they always did, but they always stood at my sides as if to prevent me from escaping. This was strange. Everything about this day was strange. Actually, it had been strange ever since the previous night. Wait, so this chapter is called The Curse Killing. Maybe Mion and Rena detected that I'm a curse that has come from another timeline, and they're killing me because I'm a curse. Yes, thinking back, it's been strange ever since killing Satoko's uncle. That creepy meeting with Takano-san was only the beginning. That insane night was still continuing. Yes, it still hadn't ended.
何？どうしたのケイちゃん。急に立ち止まったりして。
あ、ごめん。なんでもないよ。
When I stopped, it was distant, but I definitely heard them. An extra set of footsteps. That was proof. Proof that insane night hadn't ended. Mion left where she usually did and finally came to my house.
じゃあね、ケイチくん。お家で待っててね。レナ、すぐに迎えに行くから。
Yeah, with a fucking hatchet. What was it? She was inviting me along on one of her oversized garbage treasure hunts at the dam site, right? But why now? Mion coming along was strange too. Mion may have accepted Rena's little hobby, but she hated fishing through garbage, so she'd never come with her before. The location, specifically being the dam site, was a little creepy. Dam construction site was completely outside the throw of everyday life. It was so remote that no one ever went there unless they thought to in particular. Nobody lived there, and there were no lights, so at night it got dark very quickly. I was being forcibly invited there. There was no reason I had to fear Rena and Mion. Besides, wouldn't the trouble I'd make by refusing them be a pain to deal with? In that way, it didn't seem like going treasure hunting with them was a bad idea. But that insane night was continuing. Haven't the sirens of instinct been wailing in my mind for a while now, warning me that Rena and Mion were strange, that I needed to be cautious? The warning signs were so freaking loud, it felt like my head would split in two.
あ、レナ、俺、実はちょっと用事があるんだ。
Oh, Keiichi, you thought.
用事？何の？
なんのって、用事だよ、用事。
用事なら、なんでみーちゃんがいるうちに言ってくれなかったの？
Ah, it's because Mion could kill my ass.
みーちゃんとはダム現場で待ち合わせって言って別れちゃった後なのに。
Rena was smiling, but her words made her discomfort clear.
ごめん、ちょっと言い出すタイミングを逃しちゃって。
本当に？
Oh shit, bro. She's about to fucking call us a liar. You're lying, aren't you? You just made that up now, you liar. That's what Rena's eye said to me.
俺、頭が痛いんだ。風邪かもしれない。だから病院に行って薬をもらってきたいんだよ。
本当に？
That wasn't really a lie. My head did hurt a little, so I wasn't lying. Rena, she couldn't figure out if my head hurt or not just by looking at it.
なら仕方ないね。
After staring me in the eyes for a few moments, she fired a sharp needle-like stare at me. The tension in my body loosened, and I felt like my knees might
診療
buckle.
所に行くなら早く行った方がいいと思うよ。あそこたまに早く閉まるから。
ありがとう。そうするよ。
必ず行くんだよ。
It's because the director is at the clinic. Ah.
病院。
行くよ。
本当に行くんだよ。
行く。
It seemed like Rena had realized that I was going to refuse her invitation for a while now. With how serious she looked, she might actually call the clinic later to make sure I went. I couldn't say anything careless. Lying about getting checked out was just an excuse to decline a request in the first place. It didn't matter whether I actually went.
ちゃんと行くよ。なんなら明日病院のレシートを持って行ってもいい。
それいいね。必ずもらっておいてね。レナ、明日見るから。
Another tingle started crawling up my back. There was no ignoring it. Rena and Mion must have been monitoring my movements. That wasn't normal. Far from it. All of it was insane. I did what I did because I wanted my peaceful life back, but what on earth was all this? It was far from peaceful. Something had gone mad, leaving the world out of order. With the other Keiichi Marabara, with those creepy footsteps I've been hearing, with Rena and Mion acting so curious, and above all, with him being alive. Where was I? Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone? I knew that much. Was this really the Hinamizawa I knew?
おい、前原圭一。ここはどこなんだ？
I asked, whipping around before the front door to face the one who had been following in my wake all day. Nobody would have been there, of course. Keiichi Marabara, huh? That's what I just called him. Called the one who had been trailing behind me this whole time. That shadowy presence always clinging to me like it was constantly watching for the opportunity to change places. Footsteps always following me was another impossibility. It couldn't have been a ghost, so it was just impossible. So the strangeness must have been my ears, my head, or Hinamizawa. Everything I could see was the same exact Hinamizawa I knew so well, and that gave me the creeps. Eventually, I decided to actually go to the clinic. I really didn't want to go outside, but a stronger feeling than that desire was the fear Rena might actually be keeping an eye on me to see if I went to the hospital. But before I went to the clinic, there was something I wanted to make sure of. Look at this rat. It was at school. I pretended I'd forgotten something and was going back to the classroom to pick it up. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, I was overwhelmed by paranoia. I was just going to the classroom, but I hated it so much having to be so careful to fake it. The bat's gonna be in there. After carefully verifying once more that nobody was watching, I went over to the locker. Yes, Satoshi's locker. I committed the crime with the bat I found in this locker, Satoshi's bat, and then I had thrown the bat into the swamp, which meant the bat shouldn't have been inside, but what if the bat was still in here? It was a very dreadful, incomprehensible idea, but if it was true, it would explain a lot. The bat was in here. Yesterday's events would have all been a delusion. No, an illusion. I hadn't killed anyone, and I'd gone to the festival. I had a great time rampaging about with everyone. It would prove that Keiichi Maraba was really me. Proof that I was only under some strange assumption that I had killed Satoko's uncle. Proof that it had all been a wild fantasy. That would explain everything. Nothing happened yesterday. I'd just gone mad, unable to separate my shocking uncle-killing dream from reality. That would explain everything. If the bat was here, would I be able to accept that reality? If it was here, nothing will have changed. If it was here, it would just mean I'd gone crazy. Preparing myself for the worst, I opened the locker door. I was actually scared of opening it slowly, so I threw it open with a bang. And just like the first time, the choking scent of smell and sweat like a stale towel came flowing out. There was a baseball uniform and some miscellaneous other things like notebooks. There was also a shoe pouch. And as for the bat, it wasn't here. What? So it's not a different timeline? No, chat. I think this is where the 24-hour death thing comes in. So maybe Satoko's uncle is here for one more day. It was how I felt it when I took the bat out. There was no doubt yesterday really happened. Now that I knew I wasn't a lunatic, I felt relieved. But at the same time, if I wasn't the crazy one, then Hinamizawa was. And that was evidence of a reality I found just as difficult to accept. There was noise somehow creeping into everything I saw, and the world was losing a tiny bit of color. So what did I know about last night now? Now that I'd made sure that the bat wasn't there, I didn't need to be here anymore. Shall I go, for real, to the hospital? It was my first time going to the hospital, but from what I heard, it wasn't far from school. My mom had told me where it was. A big, easy-to-see road went straight there. I went past the shopping street, made a turn. It wasn't overly hard to spot the sign with Erie Clinic written on it. There was one other person, an older man, there in the air-conditioned waiting room. I went up to the counter and told them it was my first time here. The man behind the counter glanced at the clock and said there would be a short wait. It was almost 5. Clinic hours would be ending soon. As I sat in this unfamiliar waiting room, isolated from everyone, and let myself feel the cool air, I actually felt relieved. What should I tell the doctor when he comes? I could tell him I had a cold, but I was the very picture of health. Actually, I wanted him to check my head. I wanted someone to confirm for me whether I was actually really sane or not.
前原圭一さん、診察室へお入りください。
Oh shit, Chad, I'm telling you, this is the director. Huh? The voice from the other side of the examination curtain. Thought I'd heard it somewhere before.
こんにちは。ここでお会いするのは初めてですね。
監督ってお医者さんだったんですか?
Okay, did you see the name of the clinic? You literally read it out loud. Now that you mention it, he did seem to know his way around when he was looking at my shoulder in the nurse's office. It would make sense if he was actually a doctor. Come to think of it, our teacher called him Erie-sensei, didn't she?
一応お医者さんなんかやっています。お医者さんはいいですよ。若いすべすべなお肌を見放題の触り放題。怪しいお注射で自由を奪って私だけの専属メイドに。
ありがとうございました。今のを見てただけで風邪が治りました。失礼します。ペコリ。
わったったった。前原さん。冗談です。さあ 座って診察させてください。聴診器を当てますから、前原さんのすべすべのお胸を見せてください。
For some reason, I felt really relieved. After that insane night, as much as I thought everything had gone crazy, Coach was here doing the same thing he always did. I was very happy for that.
風邪ではないようですね。むしろ全身の擦り傷や切り傷の方が痛々しいくらいです。ひょっとして半袖半ズボンで藪の中に入って遊びましたか？切り傷から破傷風菌が入った可能性もないとは言えませんし。
As I was chasing that man last night, I kept being scraped by bits of trees. I didn't realize I had so many cuts.
昨日のお祭りではしゃぎすぎましたね。若いというのはいいことです。
And once again, I apparently went to the
監督
festival.
も行ったんですよね、お祭り。
ええ、もちろんですよ。私こう見えても綿流しの実行委員会の役員ですからね。
俺に会いましたか？
This coach was the same coach that I had always known, and I felt like I could trust him more than my weird friend, so I asked.
実は私、本部テントでずーっと会長さんたちとお酒を飲んでたんで、全然お祭りは見て回ってないんですよ。前原さんには会ってないと思います。
そうですか。
変わった質問をしましたね。ひょっとして今日寝不足ですか？いけませんよ。成長期はよく食べよく寝て育つんですから。
Coach let out a laugh. He didn't laugh in an unnatural way like Mion and Rena did. Coach was okay. He was the coach from the world I knew. He wasn't someone from this abnormal world.
こんな話、きっと変だと思うんですけど、笑わないで聞いてほしいんです。
ねえ、どうぞ。思春期のシャイな悩み、大いに歓迎ですよ。
俺と瓜二つな人間がいる
Oh shit.
なんて
He's gonna give it away.
ありえますか？
Coach hadn't expected a question at all and couldn't say anything for a moment, but then he smiled calmly and quietly answered.
迷信ですが、世界には自分と全く同じ顔をした人があと2人いるなんて話を聞いたことがありますね。いるならぜひお会いしてみたいものですが。あとおとぎ話にも自分の分身が登場する話がいろいろありますよ。ドイツのおとぎ話に出てくるドッペルのお化けなどは有名です。
ドッペルのお化け？
ええ、自分の姿に瓜二つなんだそうです。不幸の前触れなんだそうで、これに遭ってしまうと近いうちに死んでしまうみたいな話らしいですよ。
When you meet them, sure to die soon. Story ended directly in death, plain and simple, and it made my spine tingle. Coach wasn't saying it to scare me though. He was just offering a casual anecdote, but that made it feel all the more real.
そのお化けがひなみ沢に出るなんて話はありますか？
ええさてどうでしょう。
Coach must have thought he was being teased, so he laughed in an exaggerated way. But when I didn't smile along with him, his laughter steadily grew fainter.
すみません。ちょっと真面目な話のつもりだったんで。
いえ、こっちこそ笑ってすみませんでした。何か気になることでもおありですか？
I wondered if I should tell him. Then, after resolving myself one final time, I finally spoke.
俺、昨日はお祭りに行っていないんです。
そうでしたか。お祭りは来年もあります。その時また。
そうじゃなくて、俺は祭りに行っていないのに、みんなが言うには俺は祭りにいたらしいんですよ。こんなことってあるんですか
？And he answered, choosing his words carefully.
お話を整理しますね。
Oh shit.
つまり前原君は綿流しのお祭りに行ったけど、その記憶がないということですか？
I was trying to say something completely different, but I suppose any sane person would come to that conclusion. That night, Keiichi Marabara was actually at the festival, but I was saying I didn't go. That obviously meant my memories of going there had failed me. But that was absolutely impossible. That vivid act I committed during the downpour couldn't possibly have been an illusion. All these scrapes on my body prove it, as does the fact that a bat wasn't in the locker.
ええ、違うんです、監督。俺は本当に祭りに行っていないんです。
気を悪くしないでくださいよ、前原さん。前原さんにはこれまでに気づいたら見知らぬ場所にいたとか、そういう記憶の欠落を経験されたことがありますか？
I wish he would ask if it rained.
ないです。それに記憶を失ったとかそういうのじゃない。だってその祭りの時間には別の用事を確かにやっていましたから。
What was that something else?
寝てて意識がなかったとかそういうのじゃありません。
その用事は間違いなく。大変失礼ですが、何かの思い込みでなく。
間違いありません。完全にはっきりとした記憶、いや事実です。
お祭りの時間に神社にいなくて、よそで別の用事をしていた。それをはっきりした形で証明できますか？
He can't because the uncle's alive. That's right. Thinking it through brought me to this. There was only one way to prove that I really wasn't at the festival yesterday, and that was to show that there was no doubt I had killed the uncle. Coach saw me struggling to answer, and his eyes looked a little cold. I guess they would. After all, from Coach's perspective, I was just a weirdo sputtering nonsense.
少し横になりましょうか。心を落ち着けて楽にしましょう。
別に横になる遠慮します。
少し神経に高ぶりがあるようです。鎮静剤を注射して少し目をつむってみませんか？それで。
俺は異常者じゃない。
Whoa. I realized Coach was treating me like a deviant, so I raised my voice.
気に障ったなら謝ります。ですからどうか落ち着いて。
俺は絶対に祭りには行っていない。それは本当に間違いないんです。
分かってます。分かってますから、どうか落ち着いて深呼吸を。
あんたは全然分かっていない。
Coach was stunned and stared in stupefaction.
分かっていますよ。前原さん、あなたは昨日はお祭りに来なかった。そうですよね。私は信じます。信じますよ。
Coach jotted down a brief note in his records. He was writing it in German, so that his patient wouldn't know what it said. But I can make a good guess as to what he wrote.
あの時間に何をしていたか全部話さないと信じませんか？
いいえ、信じますから。どうか座ってください。
Before I sat down, I tilted my head back a little. The blood in my face all drained out and I quieted down. After taking a deep breath, I made sure that I was calm now.
俺が祭りの会場にいることはありえない。なぜなら、その時間に俺は。
Should I tell him or not? I really didn't want to go on living like this, feeling this horrible. And I said them the final fatal words.
里子の王子を殺していたからです。
I could smell the concrete in the room. I could feel the air around us sharpen. Nobody moved. Only the sound of the clock ticking told us time hadn't stopped. With his mouth wide open, Coach even forgot to blink for a little while.
あなたが里子ちゃんのおじさんを？
Yeah, it's fine now, Keiichi Maebara. Don't hesitate. Admit it with all your strength.
俺が昨日の夜殺しました。
Spoke clearly and fluidly. I could easily tell that Coach's mind had gone completely
ど
blank.
うして？いえ、それは愚問ですね。
里子を救う最も直接的な方法だと考えるに至り実行しました。後悔はわずかもありません。
そうですか。
Coach smiled thinly and nodded
だ
a
から
bit.
俺は祭りの会場にいるわけがないんです。
I left the brightness of my house for the darkness of the outside. After that, I dug holes, made phone calls. I had my hands full. And then I attacked him, killed him, and buried him. It was pouring hard at the time. The festival started that evening but was suspended due to the rain. There were no gaps in my memories. From the late afternoon until it started to rain, there was no time for me to have possibly gone to the festival.
その体中の傷はその時に。
そうです。里子の家を少し行ったところに林道がありますよね。あそこで襲い、逃げるあいつを追い、町に至る一本道で殺すに至りました。
それは本当に。
Killing our uncle, it wasn't some wild fantasy. I could tell Coach didn't believe me, so I spoke slowly, not letting myself grow
本当
excited.
です。サトシのバットで。そのバットはあいつが乗ってきたバイクと一緒に沼に捨てました。死体は殺した場所に穴を掘り埋めました。すべて自分が一人でやりました。
里子ちゃんのおじはバイクで通りかかったんですね。ではあなたはそれを期待して延々と待ち伏せを。
あいつが家から出ないことは想定していました。だから電話で適当な嘘を喋って。
電話で呼び出した。でもあなたの家と里子ちゃんの家は離れています。電話をしてからではとても待ち伏せに間に合わないのでは。
襲撃予定場所から最も近い電話として学校の電話を使いました。
でも前原さん、当日は日曜日です。学校には施錠がされていて入れないのでは。
偶然その時営林署の人が中に出入りしたんです。その隙に入りました。
After that, Coach grilled me on a few different things regarding the incident. He made sure to question me carefully, looking for any contradictions in my account.
信じましょう。あなたが昨日したことは夢とは思えない。
I explained everything, including minor details that only someone who had actually committed the act could explain. I could, of course. It was only yesterday. Coach realized that my story had no expedient coincidences or too convenient details that would have existed in a daydream delusion, and finally seemed to want to believe
こ
me.
れでもまだ俺が記憶をなくして祭り会場に行ったと思いますか？
Coach slowly shook his head. Well, my question is, why did Rena and Mion want to take me to the damn site? Because of what I said. Like...
でもクラスのみんなが昨日確かに俺が祭りにいたと言います。そんなことがありえるでしょうか？
あるわけがない。きっとクラスの皆さんはあなたによく似た誰かとあなたを見間違えたのでしょう。それに集団心理が働いて、皆さんはあなたがお祭りにいたと錯覚してしまっているに違いありません。
Ah, this is some nonsense. They couldn't have mistaken me. Mion and all the rest said they were spending time with Keiichi Maibara. It was much more than just having mistaken someone else for me. Saying that out loud would just confuse Coach. He spoke to me in whispered tones.
罪の意識はあるんですか？
It didn't sound like he was criticizing me. And even if he had, I would have flatly said the
あ
same
りませ
thing.
ん。あいつのいなかった平穏な時間を取り戻すために行いました。だから俺はあいつを殺したことなんかさっさと忘れてこれまで通りに生活するつもりです。あいつが現れる前、里子がいつも見せてくれたあの笑顔が戻った時、
Oh,
よ
that's
う
not
やく全
happening,
ては終わ
Keiichi.
り
The
ます。
uncle's alive in this timeline.
犯行を誰かに目撃されたということは？
ないと思います。目撃されてればもうとっくに逮捕されてるでしょうから。
私は医者です。人の命を救う職にあります。だから私から人間の命を奪うことを肯定する旨の発言はできません。だから私はあなたにこう言います。
Coach slowly rose and placed a hand on my shoulder.
里子ちゃんを救ってくれて
Coach's eyes started shedding warm tears. When I looked at him, I started to feel some tears of my own. I didn't know what I was crying for, and so for a little while, the two men in the room fought back their
で
tears.
もおかしいんです。
おかしいとは？
確かに殺したはずなのに、あの男は生きて家に帰ったらしいんです。
Coach's expression immediately sharpened.
状況にもよりますが、気絶や仮死状態など 素人が見ると死んだようにしか見えない状態もいくつかあります。
No, we bashed his brains out.
その可能性は？
脈を取ったわけではありませんが、確実に仕留めたと思います。
前原さんが襲った時の状況を再現してもらってもいいですか？
Coach rolled up a health and fitness week poster nearby and offered it to me to represent the bat. Though I may have been lost to the emotions of a beast that night, I remembered in detail the number of times I swung the bat, the angles I had swung from, and the force I had applied. Using Coach as a stand-in for Uncle, I reproduced him over and over one by one.
そしてあいつが足を取られてよろめいた時、脳天にこう叩きつけました。その時これまでとは違った手応えがありました。頭蓋骨が割れたんだと思いました。
Coach was calmly analyzing this information, using the place I'd struck and the situation at hand to find out what state the uncle's body had been in.
そして死んだかどうか自信が持てなかったので、倒れた後も何度か殴りつけました。
その時の反応は？
初めは殴るたびに体が跳ねるような感じがありましたが、やがてそれもなくなり、何の反応もなくなりました。
Coach folded his arms and said a few times, and then he spoke.
死んでいます。ほぼ間違いなく。
それは仮死状態ではなく？
前原さんの話からだけではなかなか判断がつきませんが、それに前原さんは死体を泥の中に埋め、結構な時間をかけて埋めていますよね。仮に30分で埋めたとして、その男は30分間も泥水に沈められていたことになります。それだけの時間、呼吸が止められたら確実に脳死します。
殴った強さ以前に埋める過程で確実に絶命したと？
そういうことです。30分間泥に埋められていて生きていられる人などありえません。
ありえないですよね。でも聡子は生きてると。
Oh my god. There's no way. Is Satoko just lying? Just to keep getting pity, maybe? She could just be lying, chat. Coach, the doctor just gave his stamp of approval that he was dead for sure. That made it seem all the more unfair that he could still be among the living. Crazy take, bro? Chat, explain. The bat's gone. Means it's been used. No, it couldn't be Chapter 1 Keiichi taking the bat. I thought for a second it might be Chapter 1 Keiichi that took the bat, but we didn't take the bat until after, like a couple days after Watanagashi. Right? This is literally the day after, so it's impossible for the bat to be gone because of that. I think Satoko's lying. Explain Satoko's tears. Bro, we literally saw her go from full psychotic breakdown to like full lock-in mode the second a teacher walked in. Like, she's like grade A actor.
前原さん、これはとても恐ろしい想像なのですが、前原さんが殺した相手が叔父でなく別人である可能性は？
Okay, listen, I didn't think this could be a possibility because that would be so fucking stupid, right? But I do remember when we did finally start hitting him, Keiichi didn't actually know if it was 100% him. He just like thought, like he just figured to himself that it was him. He killed Tomatake? No, it's not Tomatake. So who the fuck did he kill then? He's right, that could be why. It cleared up the inconsistency of Mike definitely having killed someone, but him still being alive.
そんなはずはない。だってほら、監督と一緒に聡子の家の前で酒瓶の袋を運んだ時、窓から顔を出した男がいたじゃないですか。
Oh my god. What if Satoko's uncle just sent one of his goons to go pick up Satoko because he was too lazy?
あいつですよね、サトコのおじは。
ええ、間違いありませんよ。あの男です。
実はもう一人おじがいるなんてことは。
聞いたことがありません。あの男だけです。
あいつの特徴を教えてもらえますか？
But chat, this still doesn't explain how everybody saw us at the festival either. So like...
まず身長がですね、175、もう少しあるかもしれません。
In order to eliminate the worst possibility that I killed someone else, Coach began to thoroughly compare what the man in his mind looked like with what I told him the person I killed looked like. No matter how in depth my description went, none of the characteristics differed. The uncle's traits, according to Coach, were all exactly the same as the person I'd killed, but those traits were all extremely vague and they weren't particularly distinct at a glance.
もっとこう絶対にあいつだと識別できる特徴はありませんか？
そういえば私は見たことありませんが、さとこちゃんが昔背中に虎だかなんだかの入れ墨があるなんて言っていたような気がします。
入れ墨？
That was really important. Not everyone had a tattoo. If I found a tiger tattoo on the back of the man's corpse, it would be proof I'd killed the right one. At the moment, though, there was one other thing that would verify this. To go to Satoko's house and see for myself the uncle had returned home despite having died. But that was far more terrifying than digging up the body and looking at its back. Without even looking at the tattoo, I knew for sure the one I killed had been Satoko's uncle. I cracked his head open and killed him, and yet he'd gone back home. There wasn't any misunderstanding or even the shadow of doubt in my mind about having killed him. And yet, it was impossible for him to exist. Kind of like how Keiichi had been at the festival despite it being impossible. That small commonality made me feel as though a faint but bizarre force was permeating this insane Hinamizawa.
一体どういうことなのでしょう。前原さんはお祭りには行かず、さとこちゃんのおじさんを殺していたにもかかわらず、お祭りにはあなたがいて、そして殺したはずのおじさんも生きている。
何がなんだかさっぱりわからないです。そうやって整理して言うと、まるで俺が悪い夢を見ていて、実は殺人なんて存在しなかったんじゃないかと思えてしまう。でも事実なんです。この手でバットでガツンガツンと殴ったあの感触は絶対に夢や幻なんかじゃないんです。
Coach let out a slow sigh, then after looking at the clock got up.
ちょっとこの話もう少し真剣にやりましょう。ちょっと失礼して、紅茶でも入れてきてあげます。診療所も終わりの時間ですからね。ジムの方とかも返してあげないと。
Coach stood up and went out into the hallway, leaving me alone. The clock was about to strike 6. I was at the festival and the uncle I'd killed was alive. Had I really committed murder yesterday? The only whisper of a fact that proved that it happened was the absence of that bat from Satoshi's locker. In any case, I was glad that Coach had taken my nonsense seriously. I just confessed to murder. Normally that would frighten a person away, but Coach didn't run, he cried with me. I was glad he did. Like so, my tension smoothly melted away and I suddenly realized I really had to urinate. I thought to use the restroom while Coach had stepped out. There was one across from the waiting room. So as I left the room, I saw Coach and 2 male doctors wearing white clothing standing in the shadows of the hallway nearby. I didn't particularly intend to eavesdrop or anything, but I was quite surprised upon noticing how uneasy they seemed. I hid behind a wall and quietly listened in. It seemed like Coach was giving directions to the 2 doctors.
紅茶ですね。用意します。
睡眠導入剤を入れて、種類は任せます。味はミルクと砂糖でごまかしてください。
急激な眠気に不信感を抱く可能性もあります。興奮状態に陥って暴れ出す可能性も。
その場合は取り押さえましょう。男性スタッフはまだ何人か残ってますか？
山犬が1人。
What?
それに私たちを含めて3人です。
What was all this? I think I was already agitated despite what Coach said. Was that it? Was it just a casual conversation and it was only sounding unbelievable to me? Coach said he would bring some black tea and he left the room. And then in the shadows, he was telling his subordinates to put some kind of sleeping powder in the tea. Plus, they were getting extra help in case I thought the sudden sleepiness was suspicious and started getting violent. Hey, wait, Keiichi Maibara. Calm down, calm down. There's no way something this stupid could be happening. I mean, he was genuinely listening to my story and he even cried with me. I thought he was the only person in Hinazawa who would understand. This was
作り話か虚言の兆候があり、特に昨日の記憶が完全に混乱。虚実の区別の喪失、多重人格等の精神障害に酷似しています。でもこんな急激な精神障害の発症は普通では考えられません。あるいは先天的、もしくは引っ越し前からそういう兆候があったのか。引っ越し前に精神科に通院例がないか調べたいところです。とにかく前原さんには穏便にお休みいただきます。前原さんのご両親にも連絡しておいた方が良いですね。
Yeah, I mean, none of this is bad. He's doing it for Keiichi's own good. I've been trying to think of it at 54.
Kiss a fob, gimme my
there you
monthly
go.
kiss, Mr. Fob flew.
なんと言えばいいか言葉が思いつきませんが、彼の自宅の電話番号を調べてください。
My eyes, still moist, began to shed tears once more. This was too cruel. I really thought he had actually understood and had believed what I told him. But now, from the other side of that wall, he was bluntly treating me like a crazy person. I believed you. I had let down my guard because I thought you were the only ally I had left after that insane night. Is that a lie? All that about thanking me on Satoko's behalf? Were you just pretending in order to keep me placated? Erg! My tears fell to the floor in frustration. I was an idiot. I was such an idiot for believing that bastard. I heard footsteps approaching the doctors. A man in a dress shirt with no tie came running up.
入江先生、大変です。高野さんが見つかりました。
高野さんが一体どこに？
それが山中で焼死体で発見されたらしく。
死んだ？高野さんがですか？
The men all surprised exchanged glances. Dead? Chat, you think in chapter 1 that Mion and Rena were just trying to sedate me so that the doctor can come and like investigate me? But we had just like killed them? I mean, but Rena was running around with a fucking hatchet. And then Mion also said the same thing that happened to Tomatake is happening to you. Which is like... Takano-san. Hey, wait, so then does that mean when I cursed her wishing for her death, that wish was granted?
焼死とは一体どういうことですか？それは事故ですか？
県警の発表では他殺の可能性が極めて高いと。
Hoo 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 ha 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 ha. As I cried, I laughed quietly. Serves you right, serves you right. If I hadn't run to that woman, my murder would have been perfect. But she just had to come driving up to me and try to coerce me like that. I regretted not having killed her on the spot, but now she was dead anyway. My curse, my wish for her demise was fulfilled. Serves you right. Serves you right.
リサさんが死に、高野さんが死に。
Who's Risa-san?
一体ひなみ沢には何が起こっているというんですか？
The fuck is a Risa, bro?
まさかこれが今年のお社様のたたりだなんて言うんじゃないでしょうね。
Like hell, let the curse be real, Coach said. Everyone present just nodded as Coach cursed at no one in particular. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Yes, maybe it wasn't Oishiro-sama, but this was definitely a spell, a curse. I wished for her to die, so she did. If this wasn't just a coincidence and she died because I wished for it, then you'll die next, coach. You betrayed me. You pretended to believe me, but deep down you thought I was a madman. You looked down on me with all that pity in your eyes.
では、とりあえず紅茶の準備を。紅茶は私が持って入ります。私以外には彼は心を許さないようですからね。
Shit. What do I do? What do I do, Keiichi Maibara? This time I heard the voice of a nurse.
入江先生。あ、いらっしゃいましたか。お電話です。
今ちょっと忙しいので、後でかけ直すと伝えてください。誰からです？
沖宮警察の大石様ですけど。
あっちゃー、悪いタイミングですね。出ます。
Coach left to go answer the phone. The other men headed towards the room with the teapot to make the black tea like Coach had ordered them to. Fortunately, Coach having to take the phone call meant there would be extra time for me to act. I had to decide what to do now. Would I let him make me drink the sedative-infused tea or be held down and thrown into a mental hospital? Nothing would come from starting a brawl here. They had more people anyway, they were all bigger than me. If it came to a fight, I didn't stand a chance in hell. If I couldn't win against them, then there was only one thing left to do: run. Adrenaline suddenly rushed into my brain and my body started to move with keen instinct, like it had on that night. My surface temperature quickly cooled and the transmission routes between my cells enlarged. Using 360-degree visual information, I searched for an escape route. I would open the window behind me. Outside was a parking lot. There were no cars. A little beyond, there was a bicycle I had taken to get here. I determined that this would be the quickest method of escape. I approached the window swiftly, but with little sound to raise as little suspicion as I could. With the speed and silence of a shadow like I had on that night, I chased her uncle. I unlocked the window and opened it up. A cool evening breeze wafted in. I stuck my head out and looked over the parking lot again. Nobody in sight. No need to hesitate. I quietly crawled outside and closed the window behind me. I held my breath and listened carefully. Nobody seemed to have realized I'd run. I looked around, then I jumped onto my bicycle and zoomed away. The pedals clattered under the forest. Had my bike always creaked like this? Did the pedals always whine every time I pushed down on them? My bike wasn't the only one crying though. My tears fell as the wind cut through them. They rode the breeze and scattered behind me. Erg, I hate this. I'm not the crazy one. Hinamizawa is. How dare you treat me like a madman? Die. Just fucking die already. I believe you, I believed you. Wah! I'd gone to the hospital in order to escape Brenna and Mion's invitation, but the reality that was waiting for me had been too cruel. Who was insane, me or Hinamizawa? Or was the answer something else? I started having trouble breathing. I didn't have any clue what was happening anymore. The loud chirps of the Higurashis were irritating me. Were even the Hinamizawa Higurashi I knew so well calling into the wind? No, that wasn't quite it. They weren't calling. They were crying. The pained wailing of those lost in some kind of rhythm in another world, no longer able to return to their own sunlight. I didn't do all that to end up in a world like that. And actually, at about this time, I might have been having fun with everyone else. Satoko would have gotten her smile back after realizing her uncle wouldn't ever come home, and she might have shown it to us at our first club meeting in a while. That was the kind of world I wished for. So what was this? Why did I end up in such a strange, ghastly world? Someone I'd killed was living like normal, and I had enjoyed myself at the festival despite not being there. I don't want it. I don't want this strange world. When did it start to go wrong? When? No matter how much I thought about it, I never understood. I rode swiftly and returned to my home. It had begun to rain during my journey back, and just like yesterday, I was now soaked. But I didn't care about something so trivial right now. The pain I felt in my heart that Coach, the one person I trusted, was acting so cruelly was far worse. It's raining? Did I have no allies in Hinamizawa anymore? With the naive thought that I at least wanted my parents to side with me, I stepped up to the front door. Wait, Keiichi. It'll be dark soon. There's something you want to check, right? Yes, I wanted to dig up the old man's corpse and get a look at his back. If there was a tiger tattoo there, I would know beyond a doubt he was Satoko's uncle. That long night wouldn't end until I was certain. I think he's back in his normal timeline because of the rain. If this insane world was all reparation, all a divine punishment, then I need to make certain whether I had been successful enough to even deserve to pay that price. I went to the storage room again and got the shovel. It had been washed in the rain, but the paint was peeling, making it look unsightly. I never ever wanted to touch this thing again. The sensation of it in my hands was totally different from the night before. There was a ruthless coldness about it. Yeah, it would be dark soon, so I need the lantern too. There would be a little bit of light from the street lights, but it would get extremely dark. I thought I put the lantern here, but I suddenly noticed it wasn't anywhere to be found. Then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. Of course, on that night, I hadn't brought the lantern back with me. I left it at the place I buried the body. If I didn't go get it soon, it would get very dark. And then, not only would I be unable to find the spot I buried the corpse, but I wouldn't be able to find the lantern itself. If that happened, it was all over.
急ごう。
I know, I'll feed you soon. I need to hurry. In order to fit the shovel in the basket on the front of my bike, I need to twist it and assemble it. But it looked like there was dirt and joints, and no matter how hard I pushed, it didn't want to come apart. After a strenuous effort, I realized I couldn't get it apart, so I decided to hold it in one hand and ride my bike with the other. With downpour soaking me through and a shovel in one hand and riding one-handed, it was as if I returned to that night. No, return was the wrong word. It was more like that night had never ended. The pain of the raindrops striking me were no different from then. The thing that was different was Hinamizawa, the world and nothing else. The rain clouds were already making it dark, and now was about the time for the sun to set. I could tell it would only get rapidly darker. The straight road leading to town, in the middle of it, that should be where I buried it. Yes, it was near that street light. On that night too, the water from the downpour was splashing down from the street light's overhang like a waterfall. Pouring rain was exactly the same as it had been that night, and thus it brought my memories into focus. I left my bike in the brush and stepped into the forest and ground already soaked with mud. Where had I buried him? Think. Darkness, shadows, the water, the mud, everything was the same. Think. And then I spotted the lantern by a fallen moss-covered tree. That's right, I left it right there. If I left the lantern here then, I would have buried him over here. With the sensation of standing in sludge, my feet remembered the spot better than my eyes did. I plunged my shovel in the ground. Ugh, this is hard. It wasn't here. I just dug it up, so it should have been softer. I stick my shovel down in a few spots to test where they feel like. One of them clearly
Stupid
felt
ass
deeper.
Keiichi on bruh.
I recalled where the lantern was, where the trees and things were in relation to each other, and knew that it had to be here. Under here slept that man's corpse. There would definitely be the tattoo of a tiger on his back. But if it wasn't there, then I had made a horrible mistake and killed someone completely unrelated instead. I would be more dazed at the fact that Satoko's uncle wasn't dead than I would regret having gotten someone else mixed up in this. If this insane world was punishment for the sin of committing murder, I wouldn't be able to accept it until I'd kill Satoko's uncle for good. And then without any fear, I'd attack him again, and that time I would kill him for sure. But what if the tattoo was there? That would mean I'd kill Satoko's uncle. But that would be terribly strange. If I'd killed him for sure, then who was the uncle at Satoko's house this very moment? Impossible. I didn't even know anymore what I was using the word impossible to refer to. I've used the word quite a few times today. If I had to make the words impossible fit just one thing, what would it be? That much was obvious to me.
こんなおかしな世界がありえてたまるかよ
I shouted, then turned behind me. There was nobody there, of course. It hadn't been bothering me for a while, but those footsteps had followed me this entire day. Even just now, an extra set of footsteps had splashed behind me. No one was actually there, no indication of anyone even. But they were there.
あんたは誰だ俺がこっちの世界に来てからずっとついてくるな
That's right. Thinking back, the first time I heard those footsteps was after Takano-san and I had parted. Those footsteps were my welcome into this strange inside-out world. No one could be there. I get no response. Whoever it was, they just kept staring at me. It wasn't ominous, just unpleasant. After staring into empty space for a bit as I bathed in the rain, my illogical anger slipped away. My tension loosened and a tired feeling reared its head. I tasted this feeling that night too. Sudden exhaustion, I felt as tension in my brain loosened. My vision quickly narrowed and I felt like everything around me had suddenly gotten darker. I couldn't give in to this sensation. I would light what little explosives were left in my brain and force myself to keep going. I needed to dig that man up before my stamina ran out. I needed to see the tattoo on his back. I caught my suddenly ragged breath and calmed down. Then I stuck the shovel into the soft muddy ground again. It felt exactly the same as that night. The sense of digging a hole in the beach with water coming into it every wave. What day was today? Had I gone back to the night of Watanagashi? Every strange thought that came to mind tormented me. Given my exhaustion, I didn't think I could manage to hold those thoughts back. Self-proclaimed dragon, thank you for the prime. Once the hole was deep, an illumination finally faded, blanketing my vision in jet black. It was probably the moment the sun had fully set too. That night, I had feared the worst, and gone without using much light. My senses were so strange that I could even see in the darkness. But now, I didn't have that kind of strength left. I drained everything I had last night, and now the darkness would be lethal. I decided to turn on the lantern. Putting it on the first setting would make it give off a faint light. Even with how little there was, it was enough, and people wouldn't be able to see it from far away in this rain. I grabbed the chilled lantern, turned the dial with a click, and set it to the weakest light setting, and turned it on. An uncanny world of silhouettes appeared before me. A complex and strange, shadowy world, created by intricate entanglement of trees and branches. I had only turned on a light, and it was like that was all it took to make the world into something else. I let out a quick, tired breath and wiped the liquid, neither rain nor sweat, from my brow. Then I raised the shovel into the air and slammed it into the mud. That moment, the silhouettes surrounding me ominously all moved at once. Inside my head, something packed in there, something coarse but not hot or cold, was loudly rushing about. Silhouettes were all around me, looking down at me, and one of them, a silhouette bigger than the other, stepped forward.
こんばんは。月の綺麗な晩ですね。
The coarseness in my brain shot through my whole spine and left me at my waist. The strength in my body all left me through my hips, and I crouched down with a splash into the sea of mud I dug myself.
おいし。
目上の人にはその後に3もつけるとなおよろしいかと思います。そうでないと大人になってからいろいろと苦労します。
It wasn't only Oishi, but 5 or 6 of them in a row, men wearing raincoats. I had no inkling that this many people had gotten so close. It was like once I turned on the lantern, they had just appeared there, sliding out of the shadows.
どうぞ私たちのことは気にしないでください。森の木立だとでも思って。
Don't mind them?
そうです。私たちのことは気にされず、どうぞ穴掘りをお続けになってください。こんな時間にこんな土砂降りの中でそんなにも真剣にやっているんですからね。邪魔なんかしませんよ。心ゆくまで掘っちゃってください。
No, thank you, I said. When I tried to get up and turn around, 2 men blocked our route. They stood on either side of me and lifted me up with amazing strength and threw me into the sea of mud. As I soaked in the mud bath I dug for myself, I looked up at the silhouettes looking down at me. Oishi squatted, picked up my shovel and threw it at my feet for me. It bounced loudly off the mud and hit me in the face.
ほら、続きをどうぞ。続きを。
I couldn't bear the oppressiveness of the silhouettes surrounding me, and slowly I stuck the shovel into the mud again. I felt like I was digging my own grave. If I kept digging, it wouldn't matter whether there was a tattoo or not because the man's corpse would appear eventually. It was all over, surrounded on all sides and nowhere to go. But I just couldn't figure it out no matter how much I thought about it. Why were they here? Was it Takano-san? There was only one person who could have made the connection between me and this place. Shit, I knew it. She deserved to die. Damn, Oishi kicked me in the back, which took me by surprise, sending me flying into the mud.
ちゃっちゃと掘っちゃってくださいよ。雨の中で待たされる方の身にもなってほしいもんですし。
くそ、そんなに雨が嫌なら帰ればいいだろう。
Oishi kicked some mud into my
口より
face.
先に手を動かしてください。口と手を一緒に動かすのは落語家だけ。ねえ。
The men around him didn't react, not knowing quite whether they should laugh, but when Oishi glared at them, they started mumbling out pained chuckles. Just who was this guy? I knew the world had changed after that night, but if I went even further back, didn't it start with this guy, when this guy showed up? That was when our peaceful days had been taken from us. Ever since he showed up in Hinamizawa, things have been odd. Oyashiro-sama, Oishi. I mean, their names are kind of similar. Oishi, Oyashiro. Everyone stopped smiling and the world went crazy. Oishiro-sama. The ground under my feet gradually got harder and heavier. At this point, even I started thinking something was odd. I hadn't buried him this deep on that night, had I? My exhaustion peaked and I sat down on the spot.
掘ればいいんだよ。
最近の若い人はおい。
At Oishi's gesture, the men all pulled out their own sinister-looking shovels. As I watched the days, one of them grabbed my collar, dragged me out of the hole, and threw me to the ground. The rest of the men stepped into the hole I dug and started shoveling themselves. As I stared at them dumbfounded, Oishi sauntered over and squatted down to look at me directly.
前原圭一さん、あなたの趣味は雨の夜の穴掘りですかな。
When I didn't respond, Oishi took one of the tin buckets they were using to bail out the muddy water, scooped up some of it, and splashed the whole thing in my face.
今日は大雨ですから、これ以上いくら濡れても全然わかりませんね。
Kagura-chan, think of it at 5. Oishi smiled to himself, then scooped up another bucket full of muddy water.
もう一回聞きますよ。あなたの趣味は雨の夜の穴掘りですかな。
そんな趣味のやついるもんか。
Splash. Oishi hit me with another bucket full of muddy water. The pebbles in it stung.
あの穴を掘ると何が出てくるんですかな。私、花坂じいさんのここ掘れワンワンってのが昔から憧れでしてね。
As he spoke, he ran the bucket through the muddy water again. Splashed it in my face again.
あそこにどんな宝物が埋まってるんですかね。私にちょっとだけでも。
You want to know? Then dig on your own time. You fucking pig. I wasn't saying that out loud, but Oishi mercilessly drenched me in muddy water again anyway. Shit, shit, shit. If only you hadn't shown up, the world wouldn't have gone wrong. Ever since you showed up, things have been strange. Satoko got abused by her uncle. I ended up killing him, and the world went crazy. He was how it all began, because of this culprit. He splashed another bucket of mud in my face. My insides were seething with anger. Die, you die too. If I have some strange power to kill someone by cursing them, like with Takano-san, then you're dead. And it won't be Orishiro-sama's curse, it'll be mine. I'll kill you and kill you.
反抗的な目つきですね。これを機に少しそのあたりをお勉強してしまいましょうか。今は平和な時代ですがね、私があなたくらいだった頃は何でも鉄拳制裁が普通でして。
おいさ。
One of the digging men in raincoats wiped some sweat off and called Oishi over. Oishi tossed the bucket away, then turned around with an evil grin on his face.
はいはい、何でしょうか。
これを見てください。
Acceptance or maybe resignation. I want to say to them, so you blockheads finally found it? Yeah, that's right. I'm the one who killed him. But you're the police, so it's your own job to figure out who he is, right? Come on, prove to me that he's really Satoko's uncle.
なんですかこりゃ。
多分古い排水管ではないかと。あそこの用水路に繋がっているようです。
ぶっ壊しちゃいましょうか。どうせ使ってない缶でしょ。
The men all exchanged glances and hesitantly broached another topic.
おいさ、もうかなり手応えが固いです。これより深くってことはありえないと思います。
掘る場所を間違えました。
いえ、初めのうちは明らかに掘り返す感触でした。ですがこのくらいを掘った頃から急に硬くなりまして、多分もともと掘った穴よりも深く掘り進んだのだと思います。
じゃあつまり何ですか。ここには穴があって何もなく、ただそのまま埋め直されたと。皆さんそうおっしゃるわけで。
What? What were they talking about? So no corpse.
こりゃ参ったな。ねえ前原さん。
She grabbed my collar and dragged me to the huge hole they dug. The mud inside was like an ocean. I couldn't see any drain pipe down there. One of the men stirred it with a shovel, letting me hear it clang against something hard. There's no doubt I buried him here, right here. Buddy, stop licking me. But I hadn't dug him this deep. I didn't dig deep enough to unearth an entire drain pipe. So then, this man, his corpse, where was it? Proof that I'd been successful on that night was gone. Gone. Then what on earth was I? Was I actually crazy after all? And just possessed by the delusion that I killed someone? That couldn't be. It was the unmistakable truth. It couldn't have been a hallucination. But now the most important evidence that it hadn't been an illusion was gone. I killed him. I buried him. I had absolute unwavering confidence in that fact. Then did I fail to kill him? After I left here, had he started breathing again, crawled out and gone back to Satoko's house? Was that it? I had come here to see whether he had a tattoo or not. And yet, the truth I unearthed was far more than that. Yesterday, what was I? I killed him. I buried him. There was no doubt. But for some reason, he lived and crawled back out, and that was impossible too. I'm so tired of hearing the word impossible over and over. I get it. Dead people don't like to play by the rules here in Hinamizawa. Then I'll kill you as many times as I need to. I'll keep killing you until you never show your face to Satoko again. Oishi and the others were muttering to each other. Eventually, their conversation ended and Oishi came towards me. What did he want to say? What did he want to do? I stiffened, tensing up, and then Oishi just ignored me like I wasn't even there and passed right by me. The other men too, they ignored me and shuffled away. Eventually, there was no longer a sign that anyone was around, and I returned to my quiet world of silhouettes. The only one left there was me. Only the sound of pouring rain filled up the silence. What the fuck is happening, bro? I don't understand. Gone. Turned up nothing. You know, I kind of forget that Shion was even in this chapter. She was literally only there for one. Alright, well, chat, that's gonna be it for us today. One more, chat. I literally have to be live for the HSR live stream in like, what is that? 5 hours. Alright. That's crazy? No. Alright. That's a good stopping point. I have no clue what the fuck is happening. Nothing really seems to make sense. Like, I'm not sure why Mion and Rena were so down to, like, basically kill me. But, and then it also seems that the director isn't trying to kill me and is actually just trying to, like, help me.
Leaving with more questions than answers, really.
And then I don't even remember Jufufu demo. We can watch it tomorrow. I don't really know who Risa is or whoever the fuck they said, right? So yeah, not really sure. It's just a lot of random shit going on. But yeah. Okay. Some weird shit. It's Chisa's sister, huh? Victim of curse? You think it's one of the curse victims from the past? Yeah, I have no idea. Either way, that was a fucking insane chapter. It was long as hell too. That was like, huh? Wait, hang on. Let me wrap up stream, babe. Let me send you guys over to I'll send you guys over to Sweetly. Looks like she's just starting stream. I'll see y'all, chat. I think it's at like what, 3 a.m. 3:30 around there. I'll see you guys 30 minutes before the stream starts. I'll be live for the HSR live stream. Good night, everybody. Bye bye.